the work that your primary job as a shuttle driver?
Yes, ma'am.
So all of your work was for what is the actual name? Is it the police department or is it a security? What is the official name of that department that you
Well,
worked?
at the time, it was the police and
It was
public
called
safety.
Police and Public Safety. Okay.
They may have changed it. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know that. I just wanted to make sure I had so the full name is the Police and Public Safety Department of UW Parkside.
Yes.
That, and okay, you've talked about the security, the lockdown a little bit, the dispatch, and then I somehow missed there's a separate work assignment you were sometimes given as doing clerical support, purely clerical work.
Well, yeah, I was assisting the safety manager in creating safety material for the classroom content. I would do small jobs, putting things together, information together, and laminating the cards so they can be distributed to the classroom.
Laminating cards.
The content of what I was putting together. I don't remember. It was something to do with, it was cards like what to do in the event of an emergency. So that's the content I was putting together for the classrooms. And I put that together and I laminated them. And at some point, I was supposed to distribute them, but I didn't get that far.
Who did you work for when you did that kind of work?
I was still in the police department assisting the public and safety manager.
Okay, I don't know if you'll be getting into more detail or not. I don't want to interject too many questions here. Was that a particular person though that you worked for in that when you did that kind of work?
Yes, I worked with him, helped him out. I helped him.
And excuse me, what was that person's name?
Bob, I believe. Bob, I didn't forget his last name, but his name is Bob. He's the safety manager or director. I'm probably saying his title wrong, but
okay,
he's over the safety. And I did clerical work also for him, entering students and employees parking permits and personal information in the data for him.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Back to you, Attorney McClure. I'm sorry, I just wanted to fill in a little bit to clarify for some of this.
So if we were to try to simplify but comprehensively have a grasp of various qualifications you demonstrated in your employment at UW Parkside, they might break down into simple categories such as transportation, communications, clerical, and security.
Yes.
In security, you indicated you went through various university buildings and were responsible for locking or opening them.
Yes, doors. Yes.
Were some of those places that had to be locked and secured places where there was money or expensive equipment?
Yes. A couple of labs, like it was like 2 labs that with the computers, expensive equipment that had to be locked down.
Was there other sensitive data in some of those rooms that had to be secured to make sure none of the sensitive data was breached?
I'm sure there was.
I guess. Oh, sorry. Go. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Is it correct to say that that is a position
Okay, sorry, I did want to interrupt your line of questioning, Tom. You know, as we know, Lurk has said many times that they're not a super personnel commission. So the issue isn't here is whether Parkside is making the absolute best managerial decision. The issue is whether it was done for a discriminatory reason. And so you know, if you want us to concede that there's important things in labs, I think we can do that, but I just don't see the relevance of this line of questioning.
What is the relevance of asking about that?
It demonstrates that she had intellectual, cognitive ability and was entrusted with important variety of tasks and was therefore an employee who both met basic standards as well as was put in a number of positions of significant responsibility and variety and performed them without incident for approximately 20 years. If we want to have a stipulation to that point, I will move on to other points.
I think we can stipulate to the fact that she's cognitively capable, and I think that the records you already put in the file indicate that she's capable of earning a bachelor's degree from this institution. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm not going to agree that she did all these things for 20 years, but because I don't think you've supported that by the testimony. But other than that, I can stipulate to that. Yes, she was cognitively capable of doing a number of tasks.
Well, for me, as the fact finder here, I mean, I assume all of this, what we've been talking about with this other kind of work that Ms. Campbell has done over the years, other than the driving of the shuttle bus, that's all relevant to the accommodation issue, right?
That was my point. I didn't think
I
it was
mean,
that obtuse.
all right, but so there's going to be an issue. Sounds like there's no dispute that when she was assigned these different jobs that she was able to do them. But I guess more the question for me down the road is that the question of whether these jobs were available at the time when, you know, Ms. Campbell was terminated. And the issue is, one of the issues is, could she have been accommodated by being, I understand, I assume that's what this evidence is relevant to, the question of whether there were other positions that she could have been assigned to as an accommodation. So the question for me is more going to be I guess, the availability of this kind of work at the time of her termination. I guess there doesn't seem to be any dispute that she was able, when she was given over the years these various assignments, that she was able to do them. So I don't know that we need to get into that any more, into any more detail, but why don't you just proceed? I don't know if you can go ahead. I mean, you're not planning to ask any more questions about her ability to, well, I'll strike that. Why don't you just proceed to your next question and we'll see where it goes.
Tara,
Yes,
there was no requirement that you get that degree as part of your job requirements at UW Parkside, correct?
no,
That's just something you did on your own.
yes,
And none of these positions that you worked in, was there any reference to if you wanted to go further, you would have to obtain a degree? It just literally never came up,
no,
further education.
no.
All right.
I guess the one thing I would ask is that the attorney not testify on behalf of the witness.
Okay, I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. When it comes up as we go forward, bring up your objection specifically. But why don't you just, okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, my objection to the question that was asked was the supplying of this idea that that something literally never came up in a conversation before she had suggested anything regarding that in a conversation.
All right. Well, why don't you just proceed, Mr. McClure, with your questions? And if there are specific, if you have objections to any questions going forward, bring them up at the time. Okay.
Tara, at the point in time you stopped working for UW Parkside, what was your understanding, other than what was put in the letter, as to why you were being terminated?
What was put in the
Well,
letter?
excuse me. You're making reference to a letter of termination that is not in the record yet. So you said other than what's said in the record, or excuse me, what's said in the letter. We don't have that letter. I mean, I don't know if you want to get into some of the facts now related to the actual termination, and perhaps we want to look at the letter of termination. I think that's a respondent's exhibit, but that doesn't matter. I mean, we can mark that for the record if that.
Let's mark that for the record.
All right. So Mr. Lind, what exhibit? Let's see.
I believe it is R3, the April 25th, 2018 letter.
Okay. So just a moment here. I'm going to share documents again. Okay. All right, here we're in the respondents exhibits and we're going to respondents 3. And can everybody see the document? Is this working out okay? The sharing? Can everyone see it? Yes? Okay. Just a moment here. So I'm marking respondents exhibit 3 and for the record, and it's a letter dated April 25th, 2018 regarding the termination of the complainant's employment. And here's the actual document. And let's see, can everybody read that? Do I need to enlarge it or anything? There, it's a little bit bigger. All right, so do you want to ask some background questions, Mr. McClure, about this letter, how we got to this? I mean, I don't know. I know there's a lot, having reviewed, the documents, there's a lot that happened before we got to this letter. I mean, you can ask your questions how you want. So I guess we'll probably go backwards from here. But do you want to? Yeah, okay. I guess do you want to? You can ask some questions. You can start asking questions about this document. I guess that would make sense. By the way, Ms. Campbell, do you have copies of this document, a hard copy that you printed out?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's true for all the documents. You have copies of all of them?
Yes.
Okay, and I think everybody else, last week, after our pre-hearing conference, I did send copies of, I sent an email with PDF copies of all of the exhibits marked with, bait stamps and all of that. So I guess everybody has copies to look at. So that being the case, then I can, I think I'll stop sharing just so that we have the fuller screen, since we can all just look at the letter. Okay.
And Judge, can I just confirm the bait stamp on the page we were looking at was 111?
Yeah, the cover sheet, the way we have, each exhibit has a cover sheet. The cover sheet is page 110. Bates, our office Bates stamped all of the exhibits after the party submitted them. And then the actual letter, yes, is Bates stamp number 111. Yep. Okay.
Could we also mark exhibit R-2, the April 23rd, 2018 letter, because
Oh,
I think they need to be discussed together, and we might as well get the other one marked as well.
okay. All right. I'm going back to sharing. All right. All right. So we're going to mark exhibit R2, respondents exhibit 2, which, as you stated, is a letter dated April 23rd, 2018, regarding a review of permanent restrictions with attached documentations. And the cover page for this exhibit is marked as the Bates stamp page is 103. And then the actual letter is Bates stamp page 104. And then there are some pages after that. And by the way, there aren't that many exhibits in this case. The complainant's exhibits are marked from, I think, one Bates stamp page 1 to, I think, 19 or something like that. Let's see, the complainant's exhibits, I think there's a total of 10 pages. And then the respondents exhibits, we started the numbering at page 100. So, and it goes from page 100 to page 120 in the Bates stamp numbering system. Okay, so we want to look at number 2. So we've marked number 2 as well. Is that it for now?
Yes.
Okay, and I assume everybody has copies of R2 as well as R3 to look at.
Yes.
Just 1 minute. It's odd because, I printed out all of these documents. I have copies for myself, but for some reason, I'm not seeing R3. Hmm.
Judge, I can see R3 over on your bookmarks directly below R2.
Oh, no. I'm looking at my printed. I was going to go off of the, we're on the screen sharing, and yes, yes, of course, R3 is here, screen sharing. I was going to stop the screen sharing and say that everybody could look at the printed out documents because everybody has hard copies, and sometimes it's just easier to look at the paper copies than scrolling through the document on screen. But I was just noting that for whatever reason, I don't see my copy. I mean, I know they were all here, but so when we look at R3, I guess we'll have to do it up on the screen because I do not have a copy of it to look at. All right, so what are we going to be looking at now?
We're not going to
Mr.
be
McClure.
looking at, we're going to be discussing.
But I mean, are we going to be looking at documents in order to do the discussion right now?
I do not believe that will be necessary in the getting to the point fashion. I was intending to ask questions and to make our initial case here as short as possible. I would note, though, we're coming up on 1 hour, and I believe the amount of questions I've asked and the time I've spent is maybe almost the amount that has been said by others here, and we're just not going to get done unless I can just get to the point that I'm trying to get to. I have a very
Okay.
compact case today, and I would like to get through that compact
Okay,
case.
so I'm going to stop sharing for the moment and you can ask what you want. I just wanted to know if you were going to be asking about respondents 3, and if you're not, then we can just proceed right now without looking at the screen. I
And
mean,
thank you
I
for
assume
helping
you're
me
going to be
narrow down.
asking about the termination letter. Did you want to get? Okay, so did you want to talk about what exhibit, or what did you want to talk about now? What exhibit or not?
I merely wanted to authenticate R2 and R3, have them entered into the record as exhibits, and then ask some additional questions about the issues of termination and accommodation.
Okay, you're not going to, so respondents 2 and 3, then you're offering both of them in there, I assume, because the respondents exhibits, there's no objection to either one of those. Is that correct? Mr. Lind, you have no objections to respondents 2 and 3.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize you're asking me. Yeah, no objections to our own exhibits, no.
Okay, so respondents 2 and 3 are received. I would think there would be some questions specifically about them, but go ahead with what you want to ask.
All right. You were at a meeting on April 23, 2018 with Sharonda Glass, Director of Human Resources.
Yes,
And at that meeting, there was a discussion about your having had surgeries and having questions done of your physical abilities.
no, not at that meeting.
What was discussed at the April 23rd
Okay,
meeting?
I'm sorry, and I know Mr. McClure, I know you want to get through your questioning, but we do need to get some basic facts in here. And in terms of, because we're starting from scratch here, all the information came in during the investigation and earlier in this case are not part of the case. So just in terms of who Sharonda Glass is, in terms of her relationship to Ms. Campbell, we need to get a little bit of that information in. If you know, I mean, there's no dispute on any of this, but just so it makes sense for the case, Ms. Glass was the, as you understood it, the Director of Human Resources, correct? At the
Tara?
time.
Yes. So
Okay.
I thought she was directing that to you. Yes, I know she's the director. Yes.
All right. So I guess in terms of she called you in, you just made reference to a meeting you had with her on April 23rd. So she called you in for this meeting?
Yes.
I guess I don't, you know,
What?
Mr. McClure, I obviously, you know, you can ask the questions how, you know, in the order you want. I guess as a fact finder here, you know, I guess it would be helpful to have some chronology here as to, as I understand it, from reviewing some of the documents, that Ms. Glass was not actively working for a while due to some injuries.
You mean Ms.
So
Campbell?
I'm sorry, excuse me. Yes, I do. Ms. Campbell, yes. Yeah.
Right. I can fill you in on that.
Well, I'll leave it to Mr. McClure, but I just thought it might be helpful to have a little
Right.
background here as to how we got to this position, you know, to the April 23rd and this April 25th in this meeting in 2018.
Tara, could you briefly summarize the physical injuries that you had to have medical care for that ended up being discussed at that meeting of April 23rd, 2018, of which the exhibit documents in that letter? What was the health history that was coming to a conclusion to be discussed at that meeting?
Okay. We had this meeting to discuss this letter right here, this April 23rd letter on the Monday.
And by the way, I do have it to look at on the screen myself, even though it's not on screen share. So that's fine. So if everybody has a copy of it to look at, the letter, which is in Respondents Exhibit 3, you can make references to the actual letter.
As I was called in to discuss the restrictions on this particular day and to discuss this letter on a Monday. Prior to coming into this meeting, I was not working 2 or 3 weeks before because I was told I didn't need to come in I was on light duty, and they told me that I didn't need to come to work until they called me. So when I got a call, it was to come in to discuss this April 23rd meeting and my restrictions.
All right. Now, after that meeting, there was a letter that was generated of March 25th, I'm sorry, of April 25th, 18. And you're familiar with that termination letter, correct?
Yes,
All right. Now, is it your contention that there was an improper basis for your termination in this claim?
can you rephrase that?
Did you take issue with Ms. Glass making a statement about you having too many injuries and they would not continue to employ you?
Yeah, that was before these letters and their decision.
When?
In November of 2017, when I was on light duty, I had to report to Chris Hauges with my updated note from the doctor each time I went.
Okay, this name you just referenced, this was one of the witnesses that was on the complainant's witness list. Chris, what's the last name?
Hauges.
Heilgeist or something? Heilgeist, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and who is Chris Heilgeist, or who was she at that time, her position?
She was the one that I reported to my paperwork, and I didn't forget. I don't remember her.
You mean she wasn't your supervisor or anything? You mean she was someone you submitted documentation to when you were absent for illness or injury?
Yes, in HR. She worked in HR.
She worked in HR. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so you submitted documentation to Chris Heilgeist, and then you were saying something happened in November of 2017. You were on light duty because you had had an injury?
Yes, I was still on light duty for, I believe, my right arm. I had surgery and it never had gotten better. So I was being seen for my right arm. I was on light duty. I had to report each time I went to the doctor, to Chris Hauges, and bring an updated restriction letter to see how many hours I was able to work. And so,
Yeah, and there was okay,
and
you were going to tell
so,
us.
yes. And so this particular day, November, I brought the letter, the updated letter after coming from the doctor. And Ms. Glass, I don't even think I had officially had met her, but I know it was some talk about creating me a position for that security job. And at the time, Jim Heller, which was my supervisor, we were talking about that, and he said he had checked into it because he needed that, that would be good if I could get that position created. So
Okay, Jim Heller was your supervisor, and what position was he in?
he's the chief of campus police.
Okay, and he was your supervisor
Yes, he was.
throughout your employment?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, most of it, yes.
okay. So in November 27, you had a talk with, you actually met with Ms. Glass at that time?
Well, it wasn't an intended meeting. I came just to drop off my, my updated letter for my restrictions. And at that time, Ms. Glass came in and stated that they will not create me a position. I'm having all these surgeries costing them all this money. And those were her direct words. And that was back in November of 2018.
2017?
I think 2017,
Okay.
yes, I'm sorry.
At the time of your termination on April 25th, 2018, were you in good standing in your employment status?
Well, I was told not to come to work until I was called. When I was called on that Monday to discuss the restrictions. On the 25th, I was called in to be fired.
Is it correct that you believe there could have been an accommodation in other work at the university at the time you were terminated?
Yes, I do.
Can you explain that?
Yes, I do. And two, I had just had, I believe they were upset because I had went to the doctor because with that right arm injury, I was working with my right arm and it kept swelling up. So I had to drive with my left arm, all day, and I couldn't get into the doctor. So I ended up ripping my left arm, but I was still on light duty. I was still working. But I was told
I don't understand that. When were you still working?
I was working up.
Okay. When are you referring to now?
Okay, I'm referring, I was working up to the point in March. It was somewhere in March, probably 23rd. I was told not to come to work.
March 23rd of 2018?
Yeah, it was somewhere up in that time. I'm not sure if that's the exact date, but it was at the end of March. I was told not to report to work.
Okay. Mr. McClure, I don't know, maybe you're going to be circling back again, but this is a disability case and I need information, testimony regarding the nature of of Ms. Campbell's alleged disability. And I understand there was a shoulder injury and how that affected her, to what extent she had a disability, her condition was a disability. How it affected her ability to work. And I guess I need some chronology here where we're coming up. And apparently there was light duty and then she wasn't working at all. And then she was asked to come in. And I know there were questions about her ability to perform the work, given her restrictions. I mean, all of that stuff, I mean, unless you're just going to have all the documents, fill in the information on that. But I don't know. In order to rule on these issues, I need a little background on all of that.
My intention in trying to have a compact case, and the fact the documents speak for themselves, and I've already put in the ones that I feel are necessary to make our opening prima facie case here. I am just trying to finish with that presentation. And if the respondent doesn't want to bring up any of their own exhibits, I would be content to stop when I'm done with my presentation. However, assuming the normal duties of counsel and predictability of litigation, I would assume the respondent will be bringing up whatever they wish to bring up in those areas that you are curious about. And I was going to leave it to them to do that. I was not going to go through all of the respondent's case as well as my own. I merely wish to put on my prima facie case.
Right, but part of your prima facie case is establishing that there's a disability, and I need to understand the restrictions, the work restrictions caused by the, the condition, the impairment that is the alleged condition, which I guess is the shoulder injury. But to what extent she was able to perform the job and what jobs she would have. I understand there were restrictions in her ability to drive the shuttle van, and so I guess that's all. I just need information on all of that. But I mean, that's your call. But I don't have an understanding yet, based on what's been presented, as to the actual condition and the limitations in the workplace and how. But I'm just
I will try to cover what I believe the court is
okay.
asking for quickly now.
Okay.
Tara, you were familiar with the April 23rd, 2018 letter making reference to a doctor restriction,
Yes,
and that had to do with your right shoulder and rotator cuff area, limiting you from driving the shuttle without experiencing some sort of difficulty.
When did you? Could we just go back? When did you first sustain an injury to your right shoulder?
in 2015.
And you had surgery, at least more than one surgery.
Yes, I had 2 surgeries. Yeah.
And what was this, a rotator cuff injury? Is that what it was called?
Yes, ma'am. It was a rotator cuff and a clavicle injury on the right shoulder.
All right. And there were times you had surgery, so you were off work for periods of time.
A little bit. They would work me. I would come in like a month later or so and work myself into, doing light duties. When I had surgeries, they moved quickly. It wasn't like I was at home for 2 or 3 months.
All right. I guess I'll wait for you to finish your direct examination. I do have quite a few questions, and of course Mr. Lynn he will be doing his cross exam, and I guess I'll wait until after that. I can do some follow-up questions if there's anything I need to fill in, but as of right now there is amount to be filled in. I don't want to insert right now. I could go on right now and ask more questions, but I really would like that chronology of the injury and how. I don't even know how it affected your ability to do the work. I don't know. I can insert here, Mr. McClure, or my own questions if you want, or if you want to proceed, but I would like to hear about how the injury affected your ability to perform your job as a shuttle driver.
Let me attempt to get to that point with a few questions, Judge.
Okay.
Tara, on the April 23rd, 2018 letter, which is titled regarding review of permanent restrictions.
Are we talking about the letter in Respondents Exhibit 3 right now?
Yes.
Okay. So if you could look at it, and it's Bates number, the letter is Bates number 111.
The second page attached to that document has a chronology of right shoulder problems and treatment for you. Is that correct, Tara?
Yes.
And would you agree that is a fair summary chronologically of the background of your
Wait.
shoulder?
I'm sorry, what letter? We're looking at a different, Respondents Exhibit number 3. I'm sorry, what are you looking at? That's the letter of April 25th, 2018. There's no other page attached to that.
I'm looking at R2
Okay,
at April 23rd, 2018 letter titled Review of Permanent Restrictions, which has multiple pages. I'm looking at the
right.
second
Okay,
page
so then
with a
please clarify.
medical
Okay,
chronology.
all right. So we're looking at Respondents Exhibit 2, which is, let's see here.
Okay.
So Respondents Exhibit number 2, which was received into evidence, I guess we didn't talk, we're looking about, there's Respondents Exhibit 2, actually, there's a total of 6 pages. So there's that letter of April 23rd, 2018, and then there's various documents attached to it. I don't know if you want to go through what those are, or,
I was trying to do that briefly. To indicate
okay.
the health chronology, which you had indicated, I would like to have a health chronology. And I was trying to present that as a health chronology
Okay.
quickly and cogently. And then I was going to ask her to agree with it.
Okay, so what page? All right,
It would be pages 2 and 3 is what I'm specifically asking her right now.
all right, I'm gonna share, because I don't think it's not clear to me exactly what we're talking about here.
The upper right-hand
just,
corner refers to them as pages 2 and 3.
yeah. Let me go to the document. All right, so we're on, this is Respondents Exhibit 2. And it's a letter from Ms. Glass, and it's talking about, well, it says the purpose of this letter is to summarize and discuss the facts surrounding your employment as a bus driver with UW Parkside and the permanent restrictions identified by your physician. So this is a letter that you got. Ms. Campbell, you received this letter, and there are documents attached to it. It's not clear to me what they are, but what page are we looking at then?
The one that says page 2 in the upper right-hand corner of Respondents Exhibit
Respondents
2.
Exhibit.
The
Okay,
upper
so we're
right-hand
looking
corner.
at ERD page 105. It's the Bates number 105. Yeah.
And then the following page.
Yeah. And I'm not sure what that is.
I was going to ask her that.
Okay. I mean, am I correct? I mean, I'm talking to both attorneys here. This appears to be some kind of summary that Ms. Glass prepared in terms of the sort of the chronology of time off and so forth due to injury. Is that correct? Mr. Lynn, is that what this is? Are you stipulating?
No, that's not what these extra exhibits are. The first page is something Ms. Glass compared. These are exhibits, and we can go into that in Ms. Glass direct testimony about where these
I mean,
came from.
I would think these would be documents, yeah, that Ms. Glass would testify about. I guess what I'm interested in right now, I'm a little unclear here what we're doing. I just would like from Ms. Campbell, or just sort of a basic chronology of which I don't have yet here in the record, you know, her injury and then how it affected her ability to drive, and I
Okay.
guess
Can I explain it?